So if you're a Manchester United fan, the last few years have probably been interesting. With Manchester United, you never quite know what's coming around the corner. They seem like a club that could have a brilliant result one week, an absolute horrible one the next week. They seem like a club that's at times destined for greatness, but then at the same time destined for failure. And I think in some ways it's even summed up right now with the ownership process. You've obviously got the Qataris versus Jim Ratcliffe versus the Glazers. It's an absolute whirlwind of absolute craziness, and who knows what's going to happen with the ownership of Manchester United. If you look at matters on the pitch and you look at last season for Manchester United under Erik ten Hag, there's been tangible progress, and they certainly look like a team who are building for something. And can Manchester United win the Premier League next season? Can they finally end a bit of a drought? I suppose not as long as some other teams or other top clubs have experienced, but it would be 11 years come next May if Manchester United are without the Premier League, and that is certainly a long time for England's most successful club in terms of major honours. And for Manchester United, you feel like next season is a big one. And with Manchester United, you just never really know what's going to happen, because under Jose Mourinho, you felt like this was the time they were going to kick on. This was the moment. They'd a proven winner, a man who'd won major trophies at every other club he'd been at, and you felt like he was going to win the title with Man United. You just felt like it was meant to happen with the players that he had and what he had done by winning the Europa League and also Carabao Cup in one season. But that didn't materialise. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer built a bit of a revolution at Man United. You felt like something was destined to happen there. They were winning games after games. They were playing brilliant, attractive football. Second place finish in the Premier League. Cristiano Ronaldo comes back to the football club. Raphael Varane signs, and it just nosedived and went the complete opposite direction. And that's the thing with Man United. You just don't know what's going to happen with them at the best of times. There is a feel-good factor around Manchester United right now. Last season was a very good one. They won the Carabao Cup, their first trophy in a good couple of years, their first major trophy since 2017, as a matter of fact, which came under Jose Mourinho. They got to an FA Cup final. They lost to Manchester City. There's absolutely no shame in that, in fairness. And they finished third in the Premier League, kind of comfortable in the top four in the end. Slight bit of jeopardy towards the end, but generally a top three finish, a trophy, an FA Cup final. It's not a bad season. And it's not a bad season considering context. I mean, Man United this season previous had been absolutely terrible. One of the worst seasons probably in the history of the football club. And you factor in that Cristiano Ronaldo, everything that happened with him behind the scenes, he obviously leaves the club in January. The club are without a sort of out and out recognised number 9, with the fact that Marcus Rashford, I suppose, is more of a winger. A lot of their attackers were having injury problems. There was new players who came into the team that needed to embed themselves in the league. Lisandro Martinez, Anthony, a few others. And you felt like with Manchester United it was going to be a building season. And even if they didn't get top 4, I don't think Man United fans would have kicked the toys out of the pram. I think they would have stayed behind Erik ten Hag going into this upcoming next season. But generally there was a feeling that Man United were building towards something. And sure, there's definitely been some results Man United fans will not want to see again. The 7-0 to Liverpool, the 3-0 defeat to Sevilla, the 6-3 loss to Manchester City, the 4-0 defeat to Brentford on just Erik ten Hag's second game in charge of Manchester United in the Premier League. There had been some very difficult and bad moments this season, and certainly with Man United in the last 4 or 5 years, there is a time when they look vulnerable, when they look beatable, they can get absolutely battered. And that's something that was there in the Ole era, that hasn't gone away in the Erik ten Hag era. And that's certainly something that I think Erik ten Hag needs to work on. The mentality of the team, the structure of the team, that when they're losing, when they go 1 or 2 goals behind, they stay focused, they keep their composure. Because there were too many times this season when they went more than 1 or 2 goals down and they completely lost their heads. And if you keep doing that, you know, you're going to be on the end of some bad results, and there's only so long you can get away with that, in my opinion. But going into next season, the ownership structure, I suppose, will have a big part to play in whether Manchester United can win the Premier League. I mean, with the Qataris coming in, you'd imagine Manchester United will spend big money. They'll spend a lot of money. But it's not like Manchester United in the past have not spent money. Under the Glazers, they have spent money. But ultimately, it's been spent in the wrong areas of the team, and obviously they've had the wrong people in place to spend that money. So it'll be interesting to see what Qataris' approach to Manchester United is, because when you look at the Qataris involved in Paris Saint-Germain, I mean, They say it's a different set of Qataris. Whether it's the same, I'm not entirely sure. But things haven't always worked out there. They've spent a lot of money, but they've built a Galacticos type team that honestly hasn't worked and really hasn't even come close to a Champions League other than that one season. But with Erik ten Hag at the helm and with the structure that Man United had in terms of transfers last season, if they can get the right bodies in this season, if they can get a clinical top striker, someone like a Harry Kane, who is going to bag at least 20 goals, probably even more, 25 goals probably. I mean, he scored over 30 goals last season, and within this Manchester United team, there's no reason why he can't score similar again next season. If they can brush up defensively and maybe sign a new centre-back, maybe with Harry Maguire potentially leaving, a new midfielder might be on the cards. Manchester United are not a million miles away. They already have one of the best up-and-coming wingers in Marcus Rashford. I mean, on his day, he's one of the best attackers in the league, in my opinion. Garnacho could come into his fold next season and become a top player, and he's only going to get better from here, in fairness. Midfield wise, they look very good. I mean, Bruno Fernandes, when you look at the goals and assists over the last couple of seasons, he's reliable and he rarely ever gets injured, if ever. So you know what you're getting with Marcus Rashford. I think they will probably need to get someone, a creator in that midfield. They have Christian Eriksen. I think they will need someone else to sort of replace a Christian Eriksen, because he is getting on a bit, and I don't think you can rely on him to play week in, week out, in my opinion. And I think for Manchester United, they'll need to get someone like a Christian Eriksen just to, I suppose, replace him when he's not available. The left back situation is interesting as well, because Luke Shaw on his day can be absolutely brilliant, but he can also be very inconsistent, and possibly a young left back to come in to, I suppose, challenge Luke Shaw, possibly even replace him, might also be a player that they need. And I think the goalkeeping position is definitely something that they need as well. I think David De Gea, an absolute icon of Manchester United, and the last, of course, remaining Premier League winner in the squad, with the fact that Phil Jones is leaving the team. But you look at David De Gea and think he's made too many mistakes this season. He's made too many mistakes in big games, in big moments. And I think Manchester United need to now think bigger, and they need to bring in a better goalkeeper, someone younger, someone fresher, someone who can move the ball quicker through the lines. And I think that is also a priority for Manchester United. And of course, not every club will get their targets in the summer transfer window. I mean, there are a lot of players out there, a lot of clubs out there, and a lot of clubs vowing for the same type of players. So Manchester United won't get all of their top targets, but if they can fill half of their squad with some of their top targets, I think they have a serious chance at winning the Premier League next season. When you look at it, the big contender for Manchester United will be Manchester City. And to be honest with you, I will say it now, I don't see anybody other than Manchester City winning the Premier League, in my opinion. I think they are far too strong, and they just aren't going to go anywhere, are they? And if anything, they're probably going to be even better next season. But let's say hypothetically they slip, they have a bad season, they have one of those seasons that happens every now and again with a big team, where they just lose the run of themselves, they have injuries and things just go horribly wrong. If there is a team capable of taking their place and winning the Premier League, Manchester United could be the closest. I mean, sure, Liverpool have proven time and time again down the years they have what it takes to compete with Man City, and they are the only club in the last 5 years to win the league other than Manchester City, and they are the only team that have proven that can keep with Manchester City for a full 38 game season. However, there definitely is a rebuild going on with Liverpool at the moment. They're making multiple signings right now. Some of their players are aging. They're just not reliable. Europa League football in there as well. I just don't think Liverpool will be as close this season, in my opinion. Arsenal is definitely a contender, but at the same time, there are some unknowns with Arsenal. Can they go and do it again like what they done last season? We've seen in history when teams miss out on the title in the same way that Arsenal have, they can often follow up the next season with a bad season. And I think a lot more teams, a lot more clubs will be more wary of the threats that Arsenal have, and there'll be a different approach to stopping Arsenal next season, which will be a different test for Arsenal as opposed to some other clubs. Tottenham are in transition, and I mean they're very rarely ever close to winning the Premier League anyways. Newcastle could certainly have a say this year. They're not inconceivable, but to see them go from getting into the Champions League for the first time in near 20 years to then going and winning the Premier League, just don't see that happening. And Chelsea are just an absolute mess from start to finish. I don't see them coming anywhere near Premier League, winning the Premier League, to be honest. So yeah, look, Man United, there are vulnerabilities, and some of the things we mentioned about Arsenal I think also applies to Man United. I think teams will be much more wary of Man United, to be wary of some of the threats that they possess. But Erik ten Hag has proven that he can reliably get a team to consistently win, and if they can brush out some of the mental frailties that is in the side that we've seen last season, some of the big beatings, and if they can go and get some big signings in the summer, Harry Kane and a few other players, I think Manchester United have a serious chance at winning the Premier League. Let me know your thoughts, your opinions in the comments down below. Can Man United win the Premier League next season? It's certainly an interesting topic. We'll speak to you soon.